from what I've seen in the business, like if you go into shops, you watch the oldest guy there. They work until he's worn out, and then when he's no longer of use, they start treating him like shit on his way out, and then that's how he goes out. That's what I've seen time and time again in the business.
You're listening to another episode of the Jaded Mechanic Podcast. I got a new friend with me tonight. Somebody that's really gaining some traction in the last little while on social media. Mr. Angry Bob the Mechanic.
How you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. I'm doing great.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, anytime. My pleasure. This is, we were just kind of talking about, before we got on about how, what is my goal with this podcast. And everybody I think knows by now, my goal is kind of like to just be that voice for technicians, in a greater thing. If they're scared to say something online about a condition, I'm sure you probably get more and more, and you see a lot of it too, but I get messages all the time of people from that I've never talked to that is just say to me, oh, something, this episode really resonated me because I work in a place like that, or I've been treated like that. And so you kind of give us some background on Bob.
I'm from Philadelphia. I've been an automotive technician I've been in the automotive business now, I guess I'd say, for almost 25 years.
Yeah.
I started out in high school, and I went to Lincoln Tech, and progressed from there, and had a career with Firestone for about 10 years, and then I was out my own for a little bit, and then just kind of progressed, and we ended up where we're at now. As far as the goal for the TikTok thing in the beginning was really just to, I guess, try to teach a little bit, you know what I mean? Like to educate a little bit. And then it kind of grew into my complaining a little bit. And then, from there, that kind of snowballed because you see, people responded to it.
Yeah.
And, you just try to put that out. But it really, what it started out as was to educate, because a lot of what I see in the diagnostic is guys struggle for no reason. Mm-hmm. Like you'll be, your diagnostic process that they show you, or whatever, that's the trouble tree, or, we'll have you pulling out the gas tank, checking, like for a P0496 code. I've seen it. I've seen guys literally with the gas tank out, and I'm like, what are you doing? And I say, I got this P496 code. And it's because there's no good teaching. They don't teach you the easy ways. No one shows you the tricks. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what I started at. It was to show the tricks.
Yeah. And then there's always an easier way to do it. Right. Mm-hmm. So if I don't have to drop the gas tank, but I want to load test, the circuit to the tank pressure sensor, right. If I could save that hour it takes me to get the tank down. And I mean, us people that work in the Rust Belt, like yourself, myself, that it's not always just about the time. It's about how much damage am I going to do, doing a test that I don't need to do. Am I going to break fuel tank strap off? If I'm, am I going to fold over a rotted old fuel line fitting on the top of the pump? And then guess what? We're buying a pump, right? Didn't really matter what the diag was. Pump comes with a new fucking fuel tank pressure sensor. So, I'm all for that. And I'm the same as you until I got out of the dealership, because the dealership was always just about follow the trouble diagnostic chart in the service manual. That was the only way you got paid. And once I got out and realized that I didn't have sometimes the time, or, the way that they wanted me to do it didn't work on a 10-year-old car. Mm-hmm. It worked on a 3-year-old car because the rust wasn't a factor yet. Right. There's always a better way. So I say that all the time. And I was like you, I struggled with, I still struggle a lot with the online stuff of what's being put out there for diagnostic processes. Not with I hate to say the quote unquote experts in the field, but who we're talking about, the guys that you can watch and you can apply it and you work. But then there's so much out there that is not professionals. It is somebody out there going, here's a fix for this code on this car. Cool story. Great.
Right, but it's only for that one car.
It's only for that one car, and he's in Alabama where he can drop his tank down and not have to buy all the lines and all that crap, and he can, put a new pressure sensor in, and if it doesn't fix it, oh well, he's only out, a couple hours, 3 beer in his afternoon driveway, and a $20 AutoZone sensor. He's only out that. I can't apply that to what I do at the shop every day because of rust and time and accuracy, and it goes on and on and on. So I'm right there with you. So, and then it kind of, you say it snowballed into because what really started to resonate with me, with you, was your little shorts on, things that you would see in the industry.
Really?
Yeah.
And see, it's funny because you can't know. I mean, you see the likes and things like that, but you can't know what, because people don't really just come out and tell like that was good or that was bad. So you don't
Yeah.
know. But I'm glad that you said that to me. That
Yeah.
you know that resonated with you. And there are things in the business that I see consistently. You know that like it's the thing of where you wanted to become the best at what you do, and then you become the best at what you know, or try to be the best at what you do, and or at least to your ability, and you find that the reward for that is maybe doing other people's jobs who
Yes.
it's not that they can't do it. It's that they
Yeah.
just don't want to. They're not going to, or they're going to do it at their own. You know, they're going to do it slow because they don't feel like it. And it's just like, dude, that's not what I signed up for. I didn't sign up to pick up other people's slack. And then when you say something about it, it's like, whoa, man, calm down. You know, and I have a way of coming off very hot and angry,
Mm-hmm.
but it's harmless. It's just a lot of yelling. You know what I mean? But it does come off kind of angry, so it can off-put people. So that's a problem too, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm the same way. Like, because I kind of got my traction way back on Facebook before there was a TikTok, and so everything was just written is blunt like a spoon. It is blunt to the point. Like, no, you didn't test that properly. You need to go back and learn how to test that properly. And people just like as if you slap them in the face. And I'm not saying, whoa, I'm not saying you're dumb. It's just flat out truth. You didn't test it properly. There's a better way to test that. When people say check the ground, what do you mean by check the ground? Like, how did you check it? Oh, I took it off and screwed it back on. It didn't fix my problem. Okay, that's not checking anything, dude, except maybe the torque on the fastener. Like, that's not a check, People get so mad. They just be like, oh my God, you spit in my face. No, I didn't spit in your face, dude. I'm just like, and again, delivery is so important. If I maybe had always been about, can I show you a better way? Can I tell you a better way? Can I teach you a better way?
I had to learn that.
It might go over better, but it's like, who's got the time? I don't. I'm sitting there on Facebook. It's 2 minutes before whatever I got to do something. I got 5 minutes of slack time. I'm reading the post, and it's just cut and dried to save you the time to go, hey, you're headed down the wrong track. You didn't test it properly. Go back. I'm not necessarily going to give you the bullet because the car's not in front of me. I don't know. I could be wrong. But it's like, we see that test. We see that guy had a Chevy Express van, put a fuel pump in it, right? And no ground on his fuel pump relay. Well, where's the ground? That woven ground strap. Yes, you could blurt out to everybody listening and everybody reading, just change that ground strap. It doesn't really teach anybody. It fixes the car. I've said that for years. It's like everybody just wants an answer to fix the car. What I want to do is empower people to know how to do the check. Why? Exactly. The why is way, way more important than the answer. The adventure to get to the destination trumps the destination. And so for years, it was like, you're just a jerk because you don't want to give anybody the answer. Firstly, I can't accurately give you the answer, because it's not in front of me. So let's stop that you want the answer, the silver bullet, whatever you want to call it. But that's more, the process is more important than the end result. The process avoids going down the rabbit hole. So that's how I kind of got into this whole thing of networking. So when I see people like yourself talking online, about what they're trying to do, where do you see it happening? Like, why is it always like, Bob, 30 years, 40 years later, why are we still having the same obstacles in the industry?
To be honest with you, and I just pulled it out. I'm sitting by my toolbox, so I just pulled it out. What changed everything was using this.
Yeah.
It was the bottom line. If you just pick this up and use it, dude, it changed everything for me. It was it's like the simplest way I can put it. By using that and a test light, it doesn't even have to be a power probe. You get more familiar with the theory of it. It's not even like, us speaking terms. You get to see it with your eyes visually, okay, that ground is there. And really the best part was when I would start checking cars that were okay. That was when I learned the most, because then when you saw something that wasn't okay, you were like, all right, that's, you know what I mean? It started making sense. And now it's like you pop in there and you're like, I'm going to use, you can see it in my videos with the light bulb I use. It's just checking ground, checking power, checking ground. And that's as complicated as things have gotten, right? Like all these modules and everything, they're still DC voltage. They're still in a box. They can only go so far because science is only going to let them go so far. DC voltage has rules. We have Ohm's law. There's things that you can't break. So as long as you understand the theory a little bit, you know what I mean, and you spend that hands-on time, it's never going to get too complicated for you. You
Yeah.
know, it's just not.
I took a good course just about a year ago, and it was Auto Aid is who teaches it up here in Canada, in Ontario, Canada, Barrie area. And so he because I tell everybody all the time, when I was in school for this, when I went to college, I sucked at electrical.
Me too.
I was terrible at it, and it was because everybody was like series parallel circuits, like, and out till ad nauseum.
Exactly.
The math screwed me right up.
Mm-hmm.
And then so God bless this, for me, finally figuring out that it's like most of the time you're just looking at a simple series circuit. Like, yes, the module has to have all its powers and grounds to do what it's supposed to. And yes, one ground can operate 4 different things. But let's be real. Most of the time, if we've got one ground missing, we've got maybe 3 things that don't work. And if we know how to read the wiring diagram, we don't even care the circuit design at that point. The wiring diagram shows us that what's in common, probably that ground. Cool, that's right. The Ohm's law thing and building circuit boards on a breadboard, as we used to call it, with little resistors in it. Like, I was sucked at that. It was terrible.
And it didn't do anything for you, and it didn't push you like later on. You didn't like, I can go back and use that breadboard stuff now.
No,
and then
it's because I'm thinking always when I'm looking at a breadboard, and maybe it's the way it's taught. I don't know. Maybe I'm dumb. I was always like, how do I apply this to a car? How do I apply this to a car? How do I apply this to a car? And I couldn't. It seemed to me more like, okay, if I'm going to design a circuit, if I'm the engineer here, that's maybe what they do. Mm-hmm. Cool story. But I just want to know why that friggin' blower motor don't turn on, right? Show me that. So my first serious employer that I had, when he took away my DVOM, it's funny because you're talking about that, and handed me a test light bulb went off, and then it was just like, okay, cool. And then I learned how to, like, okay, the test light can show me what I'm missing, and the test light can make what I need to work or not work. Component level, proving it out, done. Needs a component, done.
Right.
Sir. And it blows my mind still, the amount of techs that I still meet. And they've overcomplicated it, right? And the meter is a wonderful tool. I use it all the time, just like yourself. But it's like, I didn't use it the way they taught me in school. That's for sure. I'm not sitting there measuring resistances across the circuit and trying to calculate how many amps should flow. Like, I just don't do it. It's not how I'm. It's not my process. That was the big thing for me, was to learn to just break it down into just a basic. He said, just always break this into a series circuit. Just focus on the power in and the ground, and that's it. He said, and don't get confluffled with everything else and what it's going to do. He said, the wiring diagram, when you learn to read them better, will show you, how to still what you're trying to figure out. I mean, let's be real. We're still always either dealing with like a lack of power, or lack of ground, or a failed component. That's still all what this is, and there's shorts and CAN and all that kind of stuff comes into it. But I mean, like, there's still a lot of times that a bypass test and a jumper wire is your best friend, and a test light. It's still the way that I.
Because the electrical principles never change.
No,
they can't.
Yeah. That's what I love about this industry, right? Is because it's like they can screw up an internal combustion engine all 6 ways from Sunday. But I mean, it's like, I like electrical because it's staying the same. You know what I mean? Even though people are like, oh, well, they're doing this and they're doing that. Sure. But it still works the same. Even 48 volts works the same as 12, right? It still needs a path to work through. That's it. I have to have current that I can make it work. So I feel like you do it the same way. From what I've seen from your content, you approach it this very similar manner, right?
It comes down to just more or less. Now you break it down to simple. You know what I mean? Like KISS is the thing. Keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. Where you just kind of like, it still is what it was. Like, even like a blower motor and stuff like that. That blower motor still is what it always has been. It's just controlled differently now. And like, guys don't get held up on. We used to control it from the power side. We used to control it with a resistor on the power side, and then all they did was move it to the ground side. But it screwed everybody up, and You just got to keep it simple. You look at it, you go, oh, okay, well, since I can read that wiring diagram, I can tell that they just moved that resistor and that whole control to the other side. But if you can't read a wiring diagram and you're not familiar, at least with reading them, then you can't figure that type of stuff out. And that's where you get to instances where you'll get a customer that comes in and says, yeah, well, they told me to take it to an electrical shop because, it's just that small thing. And that's not to knock anybody. And my way is to never knock anybody, because it's not that you'll see, I don't get on people for not knowing anything. It's just that it's the people who don't know anything and claim that they do and then want to put us down.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the way the guys that just don't know, listen, I can show you. And it's not in like a, yo, you're dumb way. It's in like, I did it the same way. I made those same mistakes. Check engine lights used to ruin my day, man. Like, it was like, forget it. Because it came in, you knew you weren't going to fix it, right? Like, I didn't know how to find lean codes. I was an Identifix tech. You know what I mean? Click and whatever the confirmed fix was, we all were. Everybody was, and once I changed that bad habit, and like I said, I started using that meter and the test light, and I got out of that flat rate game. That's when things, improved for me as a technician. I wouldn't say they improved for me as far as income wise,
right.
But they improved. But it's not always about the income. It comes down to, like, you want to be a good tech. Like, I want to fix cars well, and I don't want that car to leave and not be fit. Like, I'm not giving up. I have no give up in me. It's going to get done. That's it. So it's not always about the money.
Yeah. Can you think back to one particular lesson or one particular car that kind of was like the snap your fingers, this is the for me?
I was doing like my own thing. So I was just kind of working out of my house at the time. This was like 2021. And a guy that I was doing work for, he was flipping cars. He had a 2012, or I believe it was, Chevy Cruze. And when I got it, it like one parking light came on and the horn beeped, like when you turn the key on. And I figured out it had water damage, and I took the carpets out and I went all through it. And I ended up back in my house. I had figured out what module was down and got a new module for it, programmed it through SPS all my driveway. And I was like, all right, man, we're this is a different level now that we're on. Like, we're no longer on that, just where we just push that stuff out of our mind and we just don't deal with it, or we just kind of throw darts at it. Now it's like, yo, you're really starting to be able to fix this stuff for real.
Uh-huh. You said you got out of the flat rate game. Was that like when? Can I ask? Is that like, because you mentioned Firestone, and they have kind of they don't have the best reputation, I guess you could say, with the industry, right?
I can't say anything. See, it's double edged with Firestone, because flat rate was tough, and it was like, it doesn't breed the best diagnostic wise, but Firestone, the company, sent me to training. Right. Have you ever heard of a company called East over in New Jersey, Medford Lakes, New Jersey? It was East Training. They were really knowledgeable guys, like some of the smartest guys I'd ever, had the opportunity to go to class and sit in front of. And it was engine performance they sent you for, and all types of different things. They sent me down to Jessup, Maryland, for a hunter alignment class, which that class changed my life. I learned all types of secrets down there that I would never have known. Just like doing Jeeps, being able to do Jeeps correctly and stuff like that. Yeah. Once that window's open and you get those tricks and that theory and you get trained in that way, man, you're unstoppable. Yeah. It's just that those doors need to be opened to you. You know what I mean? Someone needs to open that door and show them to you in a way that, like, when you're a tech and you've been a tech for a while, we're all like that. There's a certain amount of pride, so you can't have somebody come to you and go, yo, man, you don't know that stupid, because you're like, oh, I got my time in here. I know my stuff. It's got to be packaged in a different way. I notice, you got to come at a guy a different way. And I think I learned how to do that a little bit, in that sense. And it's, it's really like, you just kind of want to open those doors for guys. You want to show them this stuff that you now know that maybe that you got the hard way. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, because, you're probably about my age. It wasn't the same as it is now coming in this business back then, man. There was no, hey, man, let me show you the tips and tricks. It was like, yo, you're here to take my money, get over there and suffer. And we're not going to help you out. You're an adversary. You're not a friend.
That's right. Everybody I used to say all the time, every pig at the trough is competition. And, and it's a situation like I got pushed to my corner, and it was like, go figure this out. And I was in a dealership. It was flat rate environment. It's just the same as of any flat rate environment is the same. And in the dealership, it was like, there's always a couple guys that have worked that product a long time and they know little secrets and stuff. But if it's a brand new, like if you're fixing a 98 in 98, who do you ask about a 98? Nobody. right? You're all at the same place together. Now it's 2008 and you ask about a 98, completely different scenario. There might be still somebody that's been there 10 years and can remember when that was new and it had something funky going on. So what I found was, my background being that I hadn't always worked flat rate and then I went to the dealer to make more money, was that I had to figure out a lot of stuff on my own. There was a lot of people, like, not a lot, but there was a few of us that, like, we gravitated towards drivability and electrical. So it was like we bounced off each other, we fed off each other, and it became almost like a little clique where you didn't necessarily want to see the guy that couldn't do it. You know, if he got handed that ticket because they were backed up or whatever, you didn't want to go over and help him. You know, I did not, because I felt like that should have been my ticket, right? He can't do it. It's another ticket for me. That's exactly how I approached it. And I got a lot of flack when I talk about that in the industry. It's like, oh, you're just, that's gatekeeping. That's not gatekeeping, man. That's
housekeeping is what that is. You need your house.
Yeah.
Right.
So what would happen is, it was like, but I very quickly got up to speed on doing diag and drivability on this stuff. And then it was like, I would see guys over there that had been there like 10, 12 years, worked on that product. And I could, like, I was doing their comebacks. I was fixing the stuff they didn't want to fix or couldn't fix it. And it'd be the little things. Like, it'd be like, oh, I unplugged it and it showed 12 volts, but it wouldn't flow current, right? Like, or shit like that, you know. Or I can still remember a guy put a crank sensor in a Caravan for a no engine speed reading in the TCM. And everybody goes, like, if you're a layman, you go, oh, yeah, this seems to make sense. The car ran beautiful, started every time, never had a no crank. So it's a wiring point from ECM to TCM, right? That signal that's coming across, that wire's not there. That's when the light bulb clicked for me, and it's like, I'm every bit as good as this guy over here, you know, because it's like I'm solving the stuff that he can't solve, and I've been here 2 years and he's been here 12. And you know, you can argue, people will say that doesn't mean you fix one car. It was, you fix that car times how many other guys in the shop. Pretty soon you're going to start to get a bit of a puff my chest out and feel pretty good about what I can do. Now, I couldn't go over there and, you know, take that tranny out and overhaul it because I wasn't a transmission guy. But if it came in with a problem, I could diagnose it and I could fix it. You know, if it had a burnt valve, I figured it out. I did the valves. Like, if it, you know, transmission was in limp, figured that out. You know, AC clutch wouldn't turn on, figured that out. Like, it was just what I got tasked with doing. So that's where I kind of got into that attitude of, like, I don't want to give you the answer. I want to show you how to find the answer. And that was just become my method, I guess, of how I approach this stuff. Because I think it's like, you know, you teach the man how to fish. He lives,
exactly.
You know, he eats.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
You give him a fish and he eats for a day. So,
yeah.
And it was, but in the flat rate world makes you very competitive, because that, like, you know, where we all were, we're just paid the same per hour. So it's all about flagging hours. So yeah, you go in there and you tackle diag after diag and you go home at the end of the day and you got 8 hours, right? Yep. The guy over there got 14, 16, 20, and he never did a diag. And I was like, that's the problem with the industry, you know,
yep.
Because it's not.
And you want guys to fix these cars. But then, like, I equate it to, like, when you were in first grade in school and you finished first grade and now you're in 12th grade, you were not expected to do the work from first grade plus your work from 12th grade. You understand? Like, so I don't want to do tires and oil changes if I'm pulling apart wiring harnesses and I'm fixing, you know, broke with a piece of wire that I pulled out of a box from underneath my toolbox. Didn't cost you any money in the output and parts. All you're paying for is labor, but they never ask, hey man, where'd that come from? Where did those connectors? It came from my toolbox. You know what I mean? And that's the whole thing. But then the very next ticket is, yo, I got shock absorbers and you know, I got installer work. I got, you know, day one kindergarten work for you, and it better get done quickly. And I got to the point where it was like, dude, it's not wrong for me to just want to do one or the other. Because when I was a monkey back in the day, you know, when I was a young kid and I was doing tires and brakes and stuff like that, you know, they say, when you get your stripes and you be like, you know, John over there, and you know, you're this, you know, at this level now, you won't have to do that stuff anymore. But somewhere along the line, the world kind of changed. Like, things kind of changed just everywhere. And now it's like, yo, you can't do that no more. There is no old head anymore. There is no earned respect. There's no pension. There's no thank you. There's no nothing. It's work. It looks like it's work. It's pretty much work until you're worn out. From what I've seen in the business, like if you go into shops, you watch the oldest guy there. They work until he's worn out, and then when he's no longer of use, they start treating him like shit on his way out, and then that's how he goes out. That's what I've seen time and time again in the business.
Because they don't want to see him finish off and pay him severance out, right? Like,
but he earned it. But that's what I'm saying. We put our it's gone away. Remember, like it used to be that like you respected the elders. Mm-hmm. You know, you like and you wanted to get to that level and earn that. And now it's like, for what? Because you're the same as you were when you weren't.
Yeah.
And that's what guys are seeing. That's what kid like my stepson, I'm seeing it firsthand. He's the experience that he had coming in his business, 2 different shops, mistreated him when he did things right. He gave notice at the first shop, and when he gave the notice, they were like, "Yo, get out of here, kid."
Yeah.
But he gave the 2 weeks, and then this other shop, they said, "Yeah, we're going to put you flat rate." He was so excited, and a defeat in that kid's face when we did the math and showed him what he really made, because he didn't know how to do the math. Mm-hmm. He's not supposed to. Yeah. None of us are when we come in. We're all so green, you know, and they take advantage of that. They do, and we get miserable, and we get tired, and we leave, or we're like me, you know, and right now I'm seeing it, man. It hurts because, you know, even with my leg, dude, we could have made something work, you know, and it's just more, another one. You're like, yo, I'm not going to degrade myself physically to the point where my after this will be no good. So I give you what I have left, and then I have nothing left for me.
And that's kind of what I want to ask you about, because it's kind of like you haven't really come out and said it, but I could sense that there was something going on physically with you, where it was just like you were going to work was struggling, you know, from a production standpoint, I guess, physically, right? And you didn't really, so you have a leg injury.
So I have a leg injury from a car accident that I was in, and so I have a bar in my femur. I broke my femur in 2 places, and there's a lot of hardware in my heel at the bottom on my right side. And it was getting worse. I was getting buildup in what was left of the joints. So they fused one joint, so there's another joint in there that's basically taking the brunt of everything.
Right.
So, I mean, I'll be open and honest in here. I'm a recovering drug addict. So this was at a time when I was coming out of that, and I was rebuilding my life, and I really went hard. You know, I was working in my drive, and I just was putting a lot on my leg over the years. And it's basically, doctors told me about a year and a half ago that, like, you need to find a different career. And I was at a point where it was like, I don't know what else I can do. I didn't know that I had any other worth outside of what I was doing. I was defeated. It was literally when I started making the TikToks. I had just had the surgery, and I was trying to come back from it. It wasn't going well, and it took me months to get back to work. But when I went back, I had to go back in a medical boot all the way up to my knee. But it didn't slow me down. I still continued to pump out the cars the way I always did. I still continued to do everything that I did before, because I felt that I made a commitment to that job, to do that job. So how could I go in there and expect special treatment when the other guys were still doing their job? So I got up on alignment racks in a medical boot, and it was ugly, man. I did everything in that boot. It was, went and got cars, everything. Yeah. I challenge anybody to do it. I did it for like 4 months, man. It was just every day in that medical boot. And then I got a little bit better and was able to go back regularly, but I just couldn't do the full days anymore.
So Bob, isn't it frustrating? Sorry to interrupt you. No, isn't it frustrating when they don't look at at you and go, okay, we're going to get a guy to bring your cars in. We're going to get a guy to take your cars out. We're going to get a guy to go down on his hands and knees and ramp your cars, like hoist your cars. I know I got a good friend that, like, almost every car that gets set on his hoist, somebody else is putting it on the rack for him, because that wasn't even an option. He's struggling with, his knees and his back and everything else like that, and he's a super tech. He's fantastic. Like, why in this industry don't we do that? I think I know why, because we're so. The margins are so thin. We're always looking at the production and going, like, how do I pay for somebody that's going to shadow Bob and do that kind of stuff for him to keep the wear and tear off of his foot and his knee and his back and everything else. And like, for us that do it every day long, it just makes complete sense. There'd be no better person to shadow under, right, than somebody that's got all the years of experience, can show him or her the fundamentals that need to be taught, the processes that need to be taught. But we seem to have our head up our butts in terms of, like, mentorship in this industry, because it's like, oh, well, Bob's slowing down too friggin' bad. and out the door Bob goes.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, it wasn't even slowing down. I don't think I slowed down at all. I just wasn't able to. Like I told him, I got to leave. 2:00. I couldn't do the whole day. You know what I mean? It's just it was, and then that becomes a problem because you got guys who are there for the full day, and you can understand it's a natural thing to where they're working their full day, so they're looking over at you and you're leaving at 2. You know what I mean? They don't give a shit about your leg. It wears on them because they're tired, they're working, they're men. And they see it from their perspective, not your perspective. And you got to kind of remember that, or I try to remember that.
They're not almost 50 in a medical boot though.
Yeah, no, but to be honest with you, man, and it's a sad thing to say, but it's just not the way the world works, man. People, it's at least in the experiences that I have, man, very, very, very on your own in that situation. You just kind of tough for you, kid, but you got to figure it out, and that's just it's sad, but it really is. I'm being honest. I'm not trying to be mean or anything like that, or throw any shade on any. It's what I've found in the business is it's cold, man. You fix cars, or That's it.
I mean, there's so many other places that I can see putting somebody with your skill set. Whether it's just go diagnose this car. He's this tech's going to rack it, and then I need you to go look at this, or I need you to come out and listen to this customer's complaint, or I need you to ride in this test drive with this. There's so many, whether you want to call it a foreman role or something like that. There's so many places that we can put people as they age out. My boss is already doing it with me, and it's because I'm not walking around in a boot or anything, but I've got some shoulder issues that give me a lot of, my neck can sometimes be difficult. My knees are not great. I mean, if I get up, I can, if I get down, I can get up, but I'm not going to shoot up. You know what I mean? I am slow. If I go down on my hands and knees to put a car on a rack, I'm not jumping right back up 4 times. I got to grab something and pull myself up. I don't understand why they didn't offer it to you. And I'm not understanding still in this industry when I see the conversation about, I can't get anybody to mentor, young people in this industry suck, and young people period are terrible. And, I keep losing older technicians. Why is that? Why do you think that is? I think it's because we're not utilizing what we have. I think we're so wrapped up into Bob's got to turn 50 hours of labor this week, or I'm going to go get another tech that'll turn 50 hours because I got to pay there and it has to make money. I'm so tired of that.
Me too.
BS.
And what I'm trying, so I don't, so this is kind of like a gloom type of thing right now with the leg and all, but I'd like to get to move it a little bit. So to tell you that because of TikTok and because of everything that I did, when I put that video up about my leg, I was contacted by somebody. And nothing's concrete yet, but it's a company that does ADAS calibrations for dealerships. Well, this guy reached out to me, and I've already went and talked about the job and everything like that, and it may very well be coming through. So, it was like the luckiest thing in the world, right? I mean, that happened, and I posted the video about the job, and he reached out, and this ball was rolling on this thing, and it is showing me now that there are there's other avenues now that there weren't before.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Even this TikTok thing, me putting myself out there, I don't think I could ever become a teacher in that sense. You know what I mean? In a school or something like that. But I was able to start just doing it on TikTok. And over time, it grew a little bit, and it is what it is now. And that's a really special thing for somebody to be able to do now in any way, shape, or form. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so when you talked about your stepson, and he's kind of, I've seen a couple, you've mentioned him in a video once or twice, a couple different times.
His name is Zach.
Yeah. So how does is your kind of situation and what you've gone through and your time in the industry, does Zach not see it as a warning sign or take it as that?
He's got the bug, man. He's just cars. He lives them right now. He's just it's such a coincidental thing because I don't really think that I did it. You know what I mean? But I'm nurturing it. I can tell you that for sure. And I am doing my best to use this thing as an example. So as I'm moving forward at my clip where I'm at now, and I'm having some of the hardships that I'm having, I'm trying to overcome them as I am now to show him, that it can be different. That it's not, that this isn't the end of my story. Right. You don't understand. It's important to me to be that example for him, because I don't want to put a negative. The business sucks. Let's be honest. But working on cars are awesome. I love cars. You see my garage. You see behind me. I mean, I still love cars just as much now as I did when I was his age. I still
Right.
do. And that's why I'm here with him. That's what I want to do. That's what we want to do. We don't want to go to shop every day and work 8 to 5 and kill ourselves. We want to be here, home, at the garage, working on things we want to work on, enjoying it, and that's where we all come into the business. We all come into it. Nobody comes in and goes, I want to go really hate my life and flat rate hours and all this stuff like that and fight with other techs and bitch and complain over tires and hours and point threes. We just come in and we just love cars, man.
Yeah.
And what he did for himself was he made himself a little, networking, and he went from working in that general repair side to where he got a taste of performance. And now it's like no going back for him. It's all horsepower and chargers. You see in the videos, I got Hellcats apart here. That wasn't part of my story. That's his story. That's all him. 17 years old, man.
Oh my God.
He's incredible. I'm not trying to tell you to boost this kid up. He's incredible. He's going to be so much better than me. You know what I mean? So much faster. And he's getting the electrical too, man.
Yeah.
I got pictures of him in trunks at Chargers, in fuse boxes, because we've done that together. He's had problems where I'm like, come here, I show him, bam, we'll pin this out, we'll pin that out. And his fog lights weren't working. And I said, sure, it's not the bulbs. I put new bulbs in it. Well, he got bulbs off Amazon and they were bad. So we went in but I pinned them out back from the fuse box, and it showed him the steps to take to figure it out. And, man, I've been doing this for so many years, and it was always about, like, my reputation and like, building for me. But now that I'm doing it, like, and it's, like, for him, the rewards are so much more than I could have ever imagined. Just seeing the stuff that he can do now is just, it's incredible.
That performance market, though, that can be a tough road, too. You know what I mean? Like, it's a different type of customer, right? It's a different type of customer. It's a different type of car. It's a different type of approach to the business. You know what I mean? Like, it is a lot more. I watch some TV shows that are, up here that are still guys doing it. And it's like, you got to be so much more of a people person, I think.
And he is. I'm not, but he is.
Talking about, like, they want to put $50,000 into this thing. You know what I mean? Yep. It's one thing to go and sell a car, $50,000 car to someone. It's another to convince somebody to take, this pile of parts, or it was grandpa's old C10 or whatever, and put $50,000 into it, like that.
And there's people out there to do it.
Oh, because people love it. They love that shit. As soon as it's got a sentimental attachment to it, as soon as it's a toy, people want to put money into it. Right?
And something I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but something that no one's really talked about yet is the supply has been shut off, or it's going to be shut off. We're not making them anymore. Yeah. There will be no more Hellcats. There will be no more Scat Packs. There will be no more Hemis. It's the end of an era, and we've never seen it before. So I think that this little niche market of performance is going to get bigger, more expensive, and harder to get. So if you can, like, it's a real special time, I think. Yeah. And I'm trying my hardest to with him, with the cars, and this time with them being shut off and everything. I know there's a way to make money here. I'm just trying to put it all together. You know what I mean? At least in my mind,
And I think it's shifting, 5-10 years ago, it was the big diesel trucks, right? That was where everybody, if you were in the performance market, ask Lucas, you had to be in the diesel trucks. I think that's kind of gone away. And I don't know why, whether it's just, it's a fad, or whether it, the old Happy Days, it jumped the shark, right? The Fonzie jumped the shark. And then after that, Happy Days was nothing. But I'm like, if you see the signs behind me there, like, I bleed Mopar. I love that brand, and I love what it stood for. And, the fact that it's all gone, is sad. It's the last bastion holdout of unapologetic, excessive horsepower, noise, the whole thing. They were unapologetically loyal to that, to the final days. And it's sad now that they're going to bring a Charger and it's going to be an EV. You know what I mean? Like, it just sucks. I think
why not just kill the name off and let it die with dignity? Why are you rebranding these iconic names with batteries in them?
Yeah, like the EV Mustang. Like, anybody wants to drive that. I'm sorry, that's an Escape. That's not a Mustang. I don't care how fast.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not a Mustang.
No. And you got to name this, just like we were saying earlier, but the mechanics. That name has earned something. It has built something. It means something. And I get that you're CEOs in a company somewhere, and it's all about numbers and what you think is going to make money. But you have a following of people that, like, if you would just give that thing and put it to rest and honor it, it would, you'd be respected for that. And there's none of that anymore. It's just not. It's just none of it.
If you, and I can understand that the company like Mopar, well, Stellantis, is still going to be more about like we need to sell 1 billion caravans, and if we sell 1 million, Scat Packs, it's good. But if they'd come out and said this is going to be the last Charger that is ever going to roll out, the name is dead. It's like the old analogy. You see a fighter takes his gloves off and he leaves them in the ring, stuff like that. If they just said it's never coming back,
right?
You could have done anything to that car that you wanted within reason, some traditions, but and put just about any price tag on it you want, and it would have won every JD Power Award and would have sold like they couldn't have made enough to sell them. But it's always like, we're trying to sell caravans, but like, hey, look at this really cool car that this is probably going to be the last year we're going to sell it. And it's just an afterthought. And that always irks me because when I was growing up, like I didn't care, that Chevy sold 3 million 6-cylinder trucks. I cared that they had a 454 SS short box, little truck in 1989, 1980, 90, 91. Like I cared about that. That was cool. That was way. That
would make you go out and buy a 6-cylinder truck. That was the whole. That's what I went away. You used to see the Viper, and you would go buy a Neon because you couldn't afford the Viper, but Dodge had the Viper, so Neon, whatever, right? You were in it, and they went out. They did away with that, man.
One on Sunday, sell on Monday, right? Like that's where it all came from, right? But I mean. And I understand we have to build cars, we have to market cars to what the consumers want. But I've said it. I think the idea that people are going to just walk into a dealership now and get excited is not. I think we're going to be buying utilitarian vehicles. There's going to be no excitement anymore about a vehicle. We
have car vending machines. Vending machines, man. Carvana. Like you can literally go buy a car from a vending machine with no human contact. Yeah. Come on. That's not how you buy a car.
No.
But that's what they want. That's what these kids want now. That's what the people want. That's where they're shopping.
I pissed a lot of people off when I told them that there's going to be service advisors replaced with kiosks. And at the last dealer I worked at, we had one.
When's the last time I went to McDonald's? They have kiosks now to order. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I flat out refuse to. Like if it's the same as like if I can bag my own groceries, like or use an automated teller, or I stand in line because I'm trying to keep that person in a job.
My dad was like that. My dad said that. He said they need them jobs. Not everybody can be a CEO or a doctor.
Yeah.
People need them jobs.
I'll take the extra time. I don't want to push it because, and now don't get me wrong. If I go and check out myself and bag my own damn groceries and they give me 10% off, I'd be pushing people out of the way to get it done.
They never do though.
But if I'm paying the same money, somebody else might as well do it for me.
Right. And then they got the guy standing there. He's watching you do that job. He's making sure you do that job correctly. Don't you mess up now.
Yeah, I want to yell at them and go, why don't you go open cache 9? Because we've only got 3 caches open. Yeah. You go open 9. There's a big lineup, but it's not how it works. It's a slow conditional thing to condition us to wait longer and go with less services. So, what kind of got Zach into this? Just following you around, or?
I don't take credit for anything, but I was at the house and working on cars, and he was very into bikes, and riding his bikes and stuff like that. And I told him, I said, once you get to the age of driving, you ain't gonna want them bikes anymore. And he said, I'm always gonna ride a bike. And then his sister got her license, and we got her a Hyundai Azera, and they were driving around in that. I'm sure he was driving that without his license when he shouldn't have been and stuff, just like I was when I was a kid. And he just caught the bug. He did, yeah. But he's like the Hulk with it. You know what I mean? Like where they have so much more knowledge available to them now. He just intakes YouTube videos all day of different kids working on cars, whatever. You know what I mean? And that information wasn't available for us. Google was brand new when I got into cars, like 99. Google was like 3 years old, and I think that YouTube was like 6 years off. It wasn't going to come out to 05. So that information, we had Chilton's manuals. That was it that we read for the car that we had. That was it.
I can remember somebody contacted me back in the 90s and saying, I need this done on a car. And I immediately had to go, like, you guys have AutoZone, we had Canadian Tire. And I had to go to the parts counter at Canadian Tire, and they had all the Chilton manuals under that counter. Yep. And I used to to buy it and it'd be like, okay, I'm going to do a timing belt in a 3.5 LHS. And this is before, say, I ever worked at the dealer. So I'd go and buy the Chilton manual for $18,
Mm-hmm.
the paper manual. And that showed me how to do the timing belt. And then immediately I had to at least charge $18, right? Like to do this job.
Right.
I had to, and then whatever else I charged on top of it, probably. So like, people don't appreciate how lucky they are that everything you'd ever want to know is out there. It's out there. You do not have to. You just have to put the time in to find it.
You don't even need to go to school. To be honest with you, I went to tech school, and I advised my stepson against it. I said, you don't need it. I said, you have me here. I said, you have, people are literally putting this education, guys like me or Paul Danner or any of the guys that the education is there. Like it's there. It's all, if you seek it out, it's there, It's not in a setup where you're going to go to a classroom and they're going to feed it to you like we came up. You have to want it. You know what I mean? You have to go out there and seek it out, but it's available for free. And that's just, it's made him better. I mean, I can see how fast he has advanced, as opposed to what I did back then, just because there's like a camaraderie now too on the internet, with like technicians like myself and yourself and Check Engine Chuck and all. A lot of the reason why I started doing it, I was like, yo, I want to be a part of that. That's different from what I came up with. I came up with this. And now these guys are, they're friends on here and everybody's working together. I'm like, I dig it, man. And that's why I wanted to be a part of it.
That's going to do it for this episode of the Jaded Mechanic Podcast. Part 2 with Jeff and Angry Bob comes up next week.
Hey, if you could do me a favor real quick and comment on, and share this episode, I'd really appreciate it. And please, most importantly, set the podcast to automatically download every Tuesday morning. As always, I'd like to thank our amazing guests for their perspectives and expertise, and I hope that you'll please join us again next week on this journey of change. Thank you to my partners in the ASA group and to the Changing the Industry podcast. Remember what I always say, in this industry, you get what you pay for. Here's hoping everyone finds their missing 10 millimeter, and we'll see you all again next time.